Alrighty, so it's news of the week on this Wednesday, and as much as I want to put every single news I want to talk about in this episode into just one board, I unfortunately cannot do that, and that I just ran out of room, and that I'm gonna have to switch the boards and talk about three other news bullet points that happened during this week. The Chicago Fire. So they did something big these last couple of days, and they probably did something that they've been wanted to complete throughout this whole off season, and that of course is getting Gaston Gimenez, and that a couple of days ago they finally did it. They finally acquired Gaston Gimenez on a DP contract. They also acquired Serbian attacking midfielder Gaston Gimenez. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And yeah, the Fire is started to not only complete some of their signings that they wanted in the off season, but they finally got the big fish that they've been looking for throughout this off season. And because of the fact that I did the Chicago Fire season preview a long time ago, and I did the Eastern Conference prediction before these two signings happened, I am now really regret putting the Fire in 11th place in the Eastern Conference, and that this is why when you do filler videos like I did last week, and that I did filler video because I was in Vegas over the weekend, there might be some big news and big signing in these last couple of days that can really change your perspective in terms of where a team can finish. And in this case, if I would have done the Eastern Conference prediction a little bit later and after these two signings, no doubt that I would think the Fire could definitely be right there in terms of making the playoffs. And yeah, it's kind of very frustrating that of course that happens, and that at the end of the season I'm going to have to kind of say that, well, when I make this prediction video, I didn't take into perspective that they were going to finally get their main target throughout this offseason and get some more attacking help going forward. And now, yeah, this of course has happened. So I gotta of course kind of talk about that in case I just get it completely wrong in terms of my prediction of where the Chicago Fire is going to be at. Now, Mexican winger Jurgen Damm report to leave Tigres to join an MLS team in June. So this, of course, will not happen in the next couple of days because he's currently still with Tigres and his contract is not going to end until June. But he already publicly said that he's not going to renew his contract and that he wants to come to MLS. And it will be very interesting to see which MLS team is going to get them. I'm assuming it's probably some of the bigger team like Atlanta United, Seattle, and all these teams that have big money to spend and have maybe even some teams with a DP spot open. They can potentially think about getting him because I have heard a lot of good things about him and that he is a very upcoming winger for the Mexican national team. DC United reported to add Pipa Higuain as a player assistant coach, so this pretty much confirmed the fact that he's not coming back to Columbus. But this is kind of interesting because it's been a while since I have seen a player become either a player coach in MLS or a player assistant coach in this case. So it'd be interesting to see how that is, of course, going to work out. And Pipa Higuain, obviously, I think this year might be his last year of his playing career, or the fact that it's gonna be coming soon because he just came off of an ACL injury, and that when you're just come off an ACL injury and you are getting kind of old, and the fact that you're already thinking about going into the coaching role, that pretty much tells me the fact that he could be retiring pretty soon. And it'll be interesting to see once he does hang up his boots, does he remains as the assistant coach of DC United, if this of course is going to be the case. But other than that, I think that's a decent signing for DC United, especially the fact that I think of a lot of these experienced players that we talk about that could potentially become a head coach either in this league or in a foreign league. Pipa Higuain is one of them where I can really see him becoming a head coach and a manager of another team. Jeremy Ebobisse and Tosa Enriquez both agreed to a contract extension with their respective club. Jeremy Ebobisse, of course, signed a multi-year contract with the Portland Timbers. I think Tosa Enriquez, it's the same thing with the Vancouver Whitecaps, but obviously I think both of these players is going to be happy. The fact that they are going to stay with their respective club, and it shouldn't be a big surprise seeing both of these players getting contract extension with their respective club. FC Cincinnati acquire Ajax attacking midfielder Siem de Jong, and I'm actually very surprised that this move actually went through. I mean, I said back in the last news of the week where, they were rumored to try to get him, but ever since the whole Ron Jan situation and the whole racism scandal, which, by the way, it is still under investigation. We still don't have an answer of what exactly happened. But the good news is, at least in the last couple of days, all these kind of hateful comments I've been receiving in that video and the downvotes that I've been getting in that video has kind of gradually stopped, which I'm kind of glad that it is the case, because I'm kind of a little bit tired of dealing with all of them. But, going back to this, I'm kind of surprised the fact that he still went to FC Cincinnati, and that, we'll see how he's going to do. I know he is with Ajax, and every time when you think about a player coming from Ajax, and especially a young player, that they are going to be very decent. Especially Ajax is pretty much well renowned as one of, if not the greatest academy in world soccer, and it will be I think this was a great signing for FC Cincinnati, and it will be interesting to see what he can do with this team. The Portland Timbers added some defensive depth and added Chris Duval, I believe, off of free agency, because Montreal decided to waive him and decided to deny his player contract, and the Timbers basically add him, and I think it's definitely a good signing. The fact that I know Duval is not the best defender in the world, but I think it could be a good piece in terms of the defensive depth that I think the Timbers kind of need it in their team, because when you look at this defense, they did lose a couple of pieces, and it doesn't hurt anytime when you decided to add a couple of more defensive pieces into your team. Danilo Costa and Paul Arriola both undergo successful ACL surgery and most likely are going to be out for the season. So we already know that Paul Arriola, I think in the last news of the week, I talked about how he unfortunately suffered an ACL injury, which, that was really the worst case scenario for him and certainly for DC United fans, and that most likely he's going to be out for the season. But Danilo Costa, I don't think I actually talk about how he also had an ACL injury that he has suffered and also torn his ACL. And honestly, this guy just cannot catch a break. Like, this guy was, a couple of years ago when he was with RSL, he was supposed to be labeled as one of the most upcoming rising star player, not only in that team but also in the league. But ever since he went to Orlando City, where he also had some injury issue and got limited minutes there, and that him going to the Galaxy might be a change of scenery, and then next thing you know, he is back on the IR list, and now he's probably going to be out for the rest of the season because of that. I mean, just, it's such an unfortunate thing to see, and that in many ways, I feel like he's been really snake bit in his early of his career. So, I certainly wish him a speedy recovery and hope that these kind of injuries that he have suffered in early of his career is not just going to completely derail his career and probably derail his chances to fulfill his potential of being a very decent player in this league. List of big names of injury concern heading into the first week includes all these players, so I'm going to kind of list it one by one because there are a couple of big name players that is not going to be available for their team in their season opener, and these include Nicholas Ladero, Miles Robinson, Pablo Piatti, Kai Wagner, Efren Alvarez, Carlos Hill, Paxton Parmico, Brendan Cervania, Brian Acosta, Felipe Gutierrez, Nico Benezet, and Dom Dwyer are all these players that is notable in terms of injury concern heading into the first week. And also, I said earlier that all these players might not actually play in their season opener. Well, there are a couple of players that you could say that they might be able to be available for their team in their season opener. I know Nicholas Ladero, I have heard that he was training with the Sounders on Monday, so most likely he could either be back with this team and come off the bench with this team, or the fact that he's going to be starting for the Sounders in this opening weekend matchup. And I also have heard, let's see, I heard Felipe Gutierrez is kind of training with the team again, and he might be available for SKC in the opening weekend, but we shall see in terms of whether or not if he's going to be available. And all of these other players, that some of these players I think for sure that we know that they are not going to be available. I think one of them is going to be Miles Robinson, who unfortunately he suffered that injury in that CCL matchup against Montagua, and yeah, it's a really tough break for Atlanta, considering the fact that they are kind of also dealing with some injury, and now they lost one of their key center backs, who most likely is not going to be starting in the opening weekend matchup against Nashville. But that being said, I am now going to switch the board and talk about the last 3 things that happened during this week. So the Quakes have already started to come up ways to honor Wando, not only his final season in MLS, but also his legacy with the team by setting to rename a street after him and rename it to Wando Way. And basically the street that they're going to be renaming is basically the same street where, if you watch my match vlog and you watch this time lapse where I'm walking this street to go to the stadium, yeah, that is going to be the street that is going to be renamed Wando Way, and I think it would be amazing if the Quakes are able to do that. But the other thing that I also want them to do, besides the fact that they're renaming a street to just an absolute legend of a Quakes player, is to put the statue right at the end of the street. I mean, it only makes sense if you decide to rename a street after Wando and put it right at the end of the road, where people will know why exactly it's called Wando Way, and that you know it'll be a perfect place to put it right at the end of the street, of the name of the street that is going to be in honor of Wando. So yeah, it's a good start for the Quakes in terms of them trying to honor Wando in his last season and in his legacy. But obviously what would be even better is that they could not only rename that street to Wando Way, but also put the statue right at the end of the street. The Columbus Crew have announced plan for a new training facility, and I actually have a picture of it. So there's the picture of their new facility, and basically right here, right on the left side of their new training facility is Mopfree Stadium. So their training facility is going to be right next to their current home, which in a couple of years it won't be the current home of the Columbus Crew, because they're already planning to build that stadium downtown. And it will also be interesting once the Crew does leave Mopfree and move to that new downtown stadium, what's going to actually happen to Mopfree, and that whether or not, if they're thinking, the reason why they probably think about putting it right next to the stadium is that they already think that they're going to demolish the stadium soon, and that they're going to use the same area where that stadium is put in place and basically convert it into a training facility. So yeah, we'll see if that of course is the case. But you know, the Columbus Crew is another team that have pretty much joined the mini club in MLS that is building their own training facility, and that I really hope that, as I'm seeing many of these teams building their training facility, I just hope the Quakes eventually become the next team, or become maybe a team in a couple of years built their own training facility. Because you know, when I look at all these training facilities from every single team, and by the way, today actually they released an article talk about all the training facility for every single team. Some of them just looks absolutely world class, while the Quakes are still having a training facility that is on a dirt road behind the railroad track, and it just does not look like a world-renowned training facility. Well, not even just a world-renowned training facility. It just looked like very amateur with the way that they built their training facility. So hopefully one day they, of course, would eventually do it, but we shall see whether or not if that is going to be the case. MLS have a new anthem in celebration of the 25th MLS season. So this new anthem is composed by the world-renowned composer Hans Zimmer. And originally, when I first listened to it, I didn't really like it because I feel like this was an anthem that is coming out of a movie, and I'm not quite sure if the players are kind of comfortable with the fact that they walk out in this anthem. But the more I listen to it, the more I kind of really like it, and I think the reason why they decided to create this anthem is they want to bring some hype to the fans, and that, you know, when you listen to that anthem, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to listen to the anthem a lot of time when I go to a Quakes game, or if I go to any other MLS game, it just makes you feel like I am so ready to not only cheer for my team, but I'm so ready to kind of watch some of the action. And if you're a player, I think they are also kind of hyped up too, because, you know, with the way that this theme kind of sounds like something out of an action-packed kind of movie, you're already thinking about ready to go out and perform at your best. So certainly, I think this is going to be a very decent anthem, and I have already heard some feedbacks in terms of how this anthem is, and a lot of fans have said that it is absolutely amazing, and that it really kind of hyped up not only the fans them about to see an MLS game, but the fact that the players are going to be very hyped up that they are about to take the field and trying to provide some of the best entertainment for their fans. But that being said, there you have it. That is pretty much it for my news of the week. And as usual, if I missed any important news on this board and also in the previous board, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try my best to respond to that. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.